Hey, good morning, everybody. You're going to see a little bit in the background, some samba music that I want you to kind of think about what we're going to talk about today. And I'm going to get right into class. Today's class is, I'm going to share my screen here. Today's class is one of my, one of the things that I like about this time of year is we can do a review. So this is definitely one. This is our fast review. I'm not going to do the long class. I'm going to do the shortened version of it. But this is where you can start to do some screenshots. This will give you the class immediately. This will give you the audio of it. So we're just going to record this with you and I together without all the other constructs of everybody chiming in. But the big question today is, what does prosperity in business look like? And again, we're going to be working in that prosperity business model. I wrote the prosperity business model, and that prosperity business model is three big items in that piece, right? Economy, efficiency, and environment. So we're going to talk about the business model. So when you think about the business model, we're really talking about, right, the house. What is it built? What's the structure? A model is a structure. And today we're going to be talking about, right, what does prosperity in your business look like? What does it look like in a goal? What does it look like as a customer response? What does it look like? I have my notes here. What does it look like on my notes? But, right, what is it look like as the received value? And what does it look like as what I'm putting through? So we've got some complex pieces today that you'll probably want to take some screenshots on. And where I started with today's class of how am I going to bring this information forward is I went back to my time living in Brazil. I used to live in Bahia, and I was thinking about these magic ribbons that we got at the Senhor de Bonfim, is church that's there. They host lots of events and so forth, but prosperidade is a feminine noun. That's how you say it in Portuguese. But our goal today for being together is to be accountable to the magnification of your values in action, right? Prosperity is the ability to magnify, right? Prosperidade, right? It's a feminine noun. When we think about that, it is a person, place, or thing. But when we talk about it as being prosperous, now we have an action, we have a verb, and prosperity has again been given a weird connotation in our world today. And when we think about what is prosperity, the fastest way we can talk about building prosperity. So why do people hire me all over the world? They're really looking for me to the very base part of how do we make an individual, a business, a city, a country, the world, right? How do we get prosperity? How do we build it? To build prosperity is just the fastest way is to increase your ability to trade. And as we build trade and trade partners, that allows us to have more opportunities to make wealth. But to be prosperous, whoa, that means something a lot different. And the original part of to be prosperous, the word prosperous, is to come from a state of knowing, to come from a state of knowing. And that is one of the things that we're really talking about. So today in our business planning, we'll be talking about two different conversations around value. And so those are the values of who we are, the ethics and the things that we guide from, and then the receivership of what our customers get from our business. And we're going to be talking about those inside the model of the prosperity business model. So it's a complex conversation today. So you're going to see a lot of slides repeating. I'm going to kind of say the same thing over and over again because it's got a lot of moving parts. It's a beautiful samba. It is a beautiful amount of music that you kind of want to ease into. Building a business is complex, and it is complex, and in some ways it's really simple. So today we're going to talk about business value, right? So when you see this on the internet and you search business value, you're going to always see the circle of behavior. the picture that I put up in the slide is around these different palettes of paint and how they kind of smush together. Because a lot of these things are a circle that they really mix together, where the blue and the green kind of create a purple, or I mean, the blue and the green create a color, and the blue and the red create a purple, and the red and the orange create something. So when we start thinking about business value, when we put it in the model of a prosperity business model, this comes into the conversation of efficiency and economy. So the circle of behaviors are the exchange of value, the relative value, the predicted value, and the experience value. That's what we're going to really focus in on. And that's this circle of behaviors that this customer is receiving. So how do we give that to them? When we think about this from a personal perspective of what are personal values, it is that piece of ethics, that standard of behavior of how we live in the world. So when you're thinking about the things that are your values, these are also sometimes beliefs. Beliefs are different. We'll talk about that. But as a business owner, most of you are business owners, and how you lead your business is going to be based on your values. And that is really where this complexity comes in. This is the samba. The samba is a complex dance. It has music, it has vitality, it has movement, and that is how we see prosperity in a business, right? It is this traction of movement of our mission statement, of our values for the business, of what our customer receives, of the ethics in which we drive from, and our mission statement. So it is a complex item. It is a series of things together. One of the things that I put in today is just some bonus conversation, is that as you're thinking about this, I really want you to think about that with music. And I put in just, if you haven't experienced the beautiful language of Brazilian Portuguese, I put in here some things that will let you hear that. That's what that YouTube is, or you can just type it in. And I'm also going to use some phrases that are common in Brazil to talk about kind of how we think about that, some fun things, because I like fun things. When we think about your values in your business, these are really the cultural cornerstone. So when we talk about it live, that I see more people write that down, because that sometimes that word itself is how they can understand, right, what's the cultural cornerstone we're giving to other people. But these are really ingrained pieces, and you have to write them out. You have to really think about them. They are not just get up and dance. They are really practiced behaviors that you've thought out. So that's where you also are looking at them of how do you as the leader use your personal values, your standard of behavior, your personal ethics on how you want to live in the world. In that model of small business, of the prosperity business model, this is the environment. And the other day I was having a conversation with a tech firm on culture, and they were saying, well, the culture is what makes the environment. And I said, no, it's the other way around. The environment makes the culture. So if you've ever lived in a warm environment, right, there's a very different feeling that the culture becomes where there's no snow than in a culture where there's snow all the time. So, right, the environment itself is what feeds the organisms within it. And those organisms then create something. And so when we think about survival versus growth, right, survival mentality is, right, when the survival is when the environment itself turns against the organisms that live in it. So we are really looking at the culture of a business is going to start with the environment, and that environment starts with this piece of ethics. And what are the values that I'm bringing? So as a company, right, when we're building a culture that says it's family friendly, we have to have certain policies and procedures in place to be family friendly. And one of those simple things that we've put into lots of places is a livable wage, is flexible time off, flexible start schedules, snow days. I live in Minnesota, so there's lots of snow here. There's a snowstorm here today. So, everybody's home with their family. Not much is going to get done. Many small businesses knew the snow was coming. So they yesterday said to post it everywhere, we're going to close out for the day. We're not coming to work because we don't want our employees to have to try to get through the snow. We want them to stay safe and home in their home and be with their families, right? So when we look at values and how we build culture, that's one of the ways that we build culture of family friendly. For those of you who have done my other classes on specifically on monetary identity, and you've worked on your values, and you haven't done that class in 5 years, you should come back, because your values may stay the same, but the way that you direct with them is probably going to evolve. So many of you have been in your businesses, you've been successful, you've done a lot of great things, but now it's time to really redefine the why. Why am I doing it this way? What is it that I'm doing? The why are you in business? And this is the invitation. Today is the invitation to really look at that as a redefining your why. And there's lots of work on that. But today we're going to be focusing in on the values conversation and building prosperity goals. When we look at building prosperity goals, one of the other things that I'm working on is this fashion project. So when we look at a belief, right, a belief is a faith in something that this is my truth, this is an acceptance, and there's nothing that's really going to change that belief. A lot of people have this around their religion, they have it around a lot of things, but beliefs are very difficult to change, whereas values are also something that evolves. It becomes a changed item, and a value is very personal. So when we look at a belief may look like blue jeans are the American icon of fashion, right? Because I'm working on a fashion project, and that's a belief. Okay, well, but the value for that company is that fashion should be kind to the earth, and blue jeans are not very kind, and we have lots of issues around environmental problems and blue jeans. So, and blue jeans also have a lot of magical qualities. So when we were talking about fashion in general for this, it was to really say, what's the belief versus the value? And, how can we kind of talk about beliefs versus values? The number one question that I get asked, or the number one statement that I have people ask me about the prosperity business model, right? It has those three parts: economy, efficiency, and environment. Is I don't even know what a prosperity goal looks like. And a prosperity goal looks like is, right, the ability to magnify. We are looking at number one item. What are we magnifying? And what are we magnifying on those three premises, right? In our economy, in our efficiency, in our environment. What are we magnifying? And what we see a lot of is the opposite. Is the lack of prosperity, right? That you just, your heart's not in it. Or I'm not magnifying, or I feel lost. A lot of people who are in business, they just keep doing the same thing because it still keeps working, but it's not actually feeding them. It's not actually the magic that they want to make, or that they know that they can create. And sometimes it's really looking at the lack of prosperity. So when I look at a business that's not evolving, that is not growing, that's not building super fans, that doesn't have very many reviews, that I go, okay, what is it that you're not magnifying? What is lost in that conversation? Again, right, business values are that cornerstone. They are the principles that guide all of the company's actions. And which comes first, right? Does the mission statement come first? Do the values that we have, or the values that we deliver to our customers, which comes first? And they kind of come, which is why we have that samba. They're a dance. It's the idea to put all the pieces together and get them to dance, to animate the greatness. So where do we start? And I think sometimes it's easy to look at mission And the first place I look at mission is to say, what is the purpose of mission for a business? It is to serve in the highest good of business in all situations. You're looking for a simple sentence, and you'll see some of these slides over and over again, and you'll see me bring up these concepts in just a slightly different view so we can look at them again and again and again. But a mission is something that serves the highest good of the business. And in order to do that, you have to see a bigger future. And that bigger future inside the business construct model of prosperity business, right? Efficiency, economy, environment. So let me see a bigger future on those three topics. Well, how can I see a bigger future in our efficiency? How can I see a bigger future in our economy? How can I see a bigger future in our environment? Some of you have been in business for a really long time. So you're like, well, but I'm only going to be here for this much longer. Go forward as far as you can see of yourself being in growth. If you're not going to be in growth, you will start to do things that start to limit the growth availability, right? I don't want too many clients. Oh, I don't want to be too big. I got to retire here soon. No, go as far as you can see to see a bigger future. You cannot be in a prosperity mindset by playing small. It is growth. That is what this is. It's an expansive energy. It is what we are here to do to grow. So in our mission statement, we are looking for what is the highest good that we can do in business and how far out can we see it. Mission is this placeholder. When you see this on the slide, you see it as a million red, you see it as a million yellow arrows pointing to one red dot. It is a placeholder with a hard expectation. It is a hard expectation. Everything that we have in mission, everything that we do, everything that we say, all of our policies, all of our procedures, right? Everything we build within this construct of the prosperity business model is built to be weighed and measured against mission, but it is also the starting point of how we will magnify out. It is also the same dot that we stand on to magnetize in towards us. That is the key. That red dot that you stand on of this is my mission is also using all of those values of what we give to our customers and what we ourselves are building off of, that internal ethics system, is that we are using those values to deliver on mission, and different than brand, right? So, but we're really saying, here is what I will magnify from this one red dot. And one of the ways that we do this is we start to align our values as the business, as ourself, and as to the business values, the circle of outcomes that our clients and our business relationships will receive. So when we look at that, the values that you may have is to give a livable wage, to have family-friendly policies. Those are two that I put in a lot of places for businesses, because we have to provide a livable wage, which means that sometimes we have to price our products differently so that we can sell products at a price point that allow us to really value our customers and our clients and our people that work for us, that we have to be able to do that. So we have to also build efficiencies that allow us to build a livable wage. One of the projects I'm working on is a fashion project. And so we had to build a mission statement there, right? It's built on the values of the founders of that idea, but it's also the guiding statement that will deliver the highest good in all situations. So that mission statement was, fashion is an inclusionary revolution. And so when we got to that point of fashion is an inclusionary revolution, it was to say, how is fashion available for everyone? And that is also what is in fashion, right? How do we talk about this conversation and how do we make it a revolution? And so when you're thinking about your building, your mission statement, they are not easy, and there's no one way to start. Sometimes we'll start with building a mission statement after we've identified the values and after we've understood what our customer is going to receive. Sometimes it's the mission statement is first and then it guides all of the rest. So that's the samba, that's the music, that's the movement, that's how we kind of ease into it. So when you are looking at this conversation today, you have to really hear that music in the background of your mind, that it is to watch, that this is a feast for the eyes. If you've watched Carnival, it is a feast for the eyes. And so it's a colorful, explosive, delightful movement that we are looking at. So in those, assignment number 1 is really looking at those business values. And your assignment today is that circle of behavior. And we'll talk about those: exchange value, relative value, predicted value, experience value. That these are the things that our customers receive from us. And that's also a lot of times what our partnerships will get from us. That's what our community will get from us. And so when we look at it there, it's that, but it is driven from that internal leadership, that internal compass of what we're doing. And then we build that inside the model of the business plan, of the prosperity business model. And we guide that as it moves forward from that single red dot with a million yellow arrows pointing at it of what is our mission? How are we magnifying from that red dot? How are we doing business in the world? That we are building prosperity. So when we look at, that assignment number 1 is exactly the same way we would teach someone samba, is that we teach them samba by having them in the middle of all of this and having them close their eyes. And that we would say, look, the assignment here to build all of this prosperity in your business is to really define the highest good as it pertains to all of the people that attach to your business, all of your stakeholders. And the first place to do that is to lean back in your chair, to get really comfortable, to take a deep breath in and listen. Listen to the music. Listen, smell the smells, but just listen. Listen to what is happening. And as we do that, that is how we introduce people to samba, is to not watch it, but to listen, to close your eyes and feel that music in your being. And then allowing it to move, right? That's how we define what is in the highest good for our stakeholders. What do they need? And because I'm a business advisor, that's what I do, is that I go, okay, okay, great. Where do we start? And we always start with redrawing the customer experience map. And that customer experience map is right from the widest part of our funnel to the tiniest part of that sale and outcome, is redrawing the customer experience map. How do they get to you? What does that look like? So in building prosperity, it's looking at everything from how are you being reviewed online? What are the pictures that show up when you Google search yourself? What is being said on LinkedIn, right? What's the social conversation around you that customer receives before they even get to you, right? How do they get to be in your into your business? How do they find you? And so redrawing that customer experience map, right? Are they seeing happy things? Do they get an immediate email from you? Are they hearing from you? Are they reading about you? What is happening there? And then after that, we really talk about that experience goals. What are the goals that we have for that customer service, right, on that map? What are the experience goals that we have in efficiency, in economy, and environment? So if our goal is for somebody to have a finished product, we have to really go back through and go, and how do we do that efficiently and economically? And how do we build that from an environment that is healthy and loving, right? How do we create that? So this is often, again, the same piece of how do we teach somebody a samba, is the same piece where we kind of lean back in our chair and take a minute and take a breath on values proposition. And that values proposition of how are we magnifying out in the world? How are we making things bigger? And looking at that with our question mark self, our curious mind, is to say, is this good, bad, or indifferent? Is this good or bad in general? Is it good for me? Is it good for the world? Is it good in comparison to how other people are doing it? Is it in my values? Is it in our company's value? Is to just kind of lean back and look at your red dot, right? That magnifying point, and saying, how are we magnifying out from this? And really taking notes and taking notes on what that looks like. And then we move to, right, part 2 of that is our customer expectation goals. And we'll look at that part of the of that business wheel of what do our customers receive, right? And we'll always look at that through our business model of the prosperity business model: efficiency, economy, environment. What are our customer expectation goals? Our customer expectation goals may be that they are greeted, right? If you own a store, a customer expectation goal may be that they are greeted. Hi, good morning. That their customer expectation goal may be that you have good things in your store, that it's easy to find, that it comes quickly. And it's also sometimes changing that expectation goal. We have another company that I advise to, that is they build websites, and they had to change their customer expectation goals because they really had to help people understand that they had to build their own content, that the website builder was there to take their content and put it inside of a website and make the website functional, not to create their content or to tell their story for them. So it's this customer expectation. So sometimes you are going to look at this point in your business model and say, do I need to set expectation goals? Do I need to reset the expectation that people have? And I will often say to them, what is your expectation of our relationship? Especially if you're in a service industry. I will write out, here are the top 10 things that I will do as your business advisor. And as your business advisor, the first thing that I'm responsible for is that you have a little file in my office that I watch over, and that I put things in, and that I keep track of our ideas, and I keep track of our goals, right? So they have an expectation goal that I'll remember some things. And so that's an expectation goal. And that's around the environment, that's around efficiency. Many times that somebody will go back and go, hey, can you send me a copy of our notes from that day? Right? That's an efficiency model, that if you lose the notes, I'll have the notes. So there are many ways that you can kind of look at your customer expectation goals. The next thing we talk about is predictable value. And predictable value is a little bit magic. This is where you can win by someone just thinking about the thing that you make. This is where the good vibes really can double down. And that predictable value, if you've ever gone into a restaurant that makes a fabulous meal, something that you just go, oh, my mouth is watering just thinking about it, that's a predictable value. That, right, I know it's going to be great. If you have been waiting a week to have that meal, right, you actually gave that business your love every time you thought about your reservation to get to dinner that night. Oh, I can't wait to have it. And if it comes and it's not what that predictable value is, right, that person is like, that their value just went down. Let me send it back, right? And what are the policies? If the policy of the restaurant is not to remake the dish, we're in trouble, right? That's where the environment is there. Oh, it's not perfect. Let me send it back, right? Oh, there's a new chef tonight. Let me send it back. That we want that predictable value. And so we look at that predictable value that we give to a customer, that may be of the types of things that are in your collection. We see this a lot for artists who are changing and evolving, that there are some things that they wanted as predictable values in the marketplace of what they're sellable at, and then they have these other things that they want to expand and grow on. So can I always expect something new, and can I always have some of the old? So we look at that again through the value our customer receives, and then we do that from our personal values. We build that within the business model. people ask me all the time, right? Where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? And the fastest way to start is to really ask yourself this question: what is the growth that you as the business owner count as valuable? What is the growth that you as that business owner counts as valuable? And then look out, right, as far as you can to what are the things that will continue to allow you to grow. And for me, I think that's super fans. If I were going to make any investment in any business all of the time, it is in those super fans. People who have tried your product, that get the very best of your service, and they have an ability to talk about it out in the world, and that they get the benefit of what you have, so that it's not always just selling someone something. It is to say, how did that impact them? What has made their life better by using your product or service or whatever it is that you have? So I would ask yourself that, and I would spend some time with that, of what is the growth that you have. Many, many, many of you are people that have been in business a long time, that you already know your values because you've been around here a long time, but the way we show our values changes as we advance in the world. So it may have only changed a little bit 1 year, then a second year, then a third year, but by the time we're in 5 years in, most people have had an evolution revolution. And so they're really, really smarter. They have more under their belt. They're just older. They've gained knowledge in the marketplace. So if you haven't looked at your values personally, or the values of the business as it's portrayed, you want to go back in every 5 years and really take the time to reevaluate, because the way that we show them, how we show our values in our business evolves. How we show our values in the things that we value changes, right? The way I parented for our small children was very different than the way I parent for our adult children. And it's very different than the way I parent for my grandchildren. So even though my value of valuing these humans to grow up to be who they're going hasn't changed, the way in which how I'm going to do that has changed drastically. And we also have seen a huge change in the culture. We saw the culture really value things that were knocked out of a machine, right? Mass produced. And now we see this in the last 10 years, this really huge shift back to craftsmanship, of valuing ancient traditions, valuing culture that's attached to the things that are made within that culture, handmade, that things that take time to make, that we value the time that we've invested in a beautiful meal, that we invest in sharing that beautiful meal with other people, that we see the investments of someone's work. And we also see people really looking at the body of work that they've created over their lifetime. So when you look at values, it's not just what your customer receives, but it's also the value of the culture that is out there, the value in the world. That there was a time that being able to give something at a low price that's going to be made of plastic that won't biodegrade in the world was valued, because I could get it for $1. That is not the value that we see any longer. We are seeing people realize the penalty that they paid from cheap and available, and the value that was lost by not valuing some of these other things, right? By looking at the way that things are made differently. If you've ever had a McDonald's cheeseburger and felt like garbage after, you know that that food didn't feel of value. But if it's a McDonald's cheeseburger and you really wanted that, and it was exactly what you want, then it had value, right? So it's where you're weighing it. That's why we have to readjust our own values, our own ethics around how we are serving ourselves, our business, our communities, right? It's a much bigger conversation. And so some of this, you have to kind of take an exhale and kind of lean back in your chair and look at that values proposition. And one of those ways that we look at that values proposition is, do we as an employee, do we employ people or do we partner with people? And we do that, again, going back to our business model of prosperity, PBB, prosperity business model, efficiency, economy, environment. I was in a CEO forum the other day, and we talked about this, and very, very diverse conversations about employment and partnership and employing people overseas, and what those values had, and where did companies stand on this conversation. And we see companies that are saying, no, we will provide a livable wage and we are good for it. These are our values and our ethics. And then we had other people that said, no, well, we value the fact that we can give the low end of that livable wage to someone who lives far away, and that becomes a high wage in where they live. They felt that they could really provide more by partnering with people overseas and giving them paychecks in places of the world that perhaps did not have the financial stability that the country of origin had for the company. So lots of conversation in there for you around your values. And again, right, I come back to where I started, right, is this conversation from Bahia, from Brazil, right, that we have these little ribbons that we would get, and we would tie these ribbons. So somebody would give you this ribbon as a gift, and then you would put it on your left hand and you would tie 3 knots in it, and those 3 knots were a wish. And you wear that ribbon until it falls off. So some people it falls off in a week, some people it's 3 years. And I've had them both. Because I have multiple ribbons. But you have to be accountable to the magnification of your values in action. And by doing that, I'm also going to kind of bring in some of the language of some of the ways that we talk about this, just statements that, that we think about in Brazil. But you have to be accountable to that. You have to also next really look at how am I going to do that? And that's these planning points. You kind of want to just set a push pin in on 3 or 4 points that you go, this is how I'm going to measure the value that our customers are getting, right? So if I were going to say, how do I value do our employees find value in how we employ them? Well, I can take a survey. Do I value for a business? A lot of times, if they're a service industry, I will say, how many clients did you serve the year before, and how much did that grow? Some of the ways that you can see value is how many people open that newsletter or not. Is that newsletter actually doing what it should? If you're only reaching 1% of your clients, we've got a problem. So it's really looking at it so that somebody really wants to dive into that. So you've got to have some measuring points. You've got to have some landing points that say, is the efficiency that we're building, how do we measure it? Are we building efficiently, and are we building within, are we building to mission? Are we delivering on it? How are we improving our efficiency? The economy, right? Are we building a better economy in how we work in our business? Are we being not just efficient with our money, but are we actually growing the economy? Are we growing our relationships? Are we having more trading partners? Right? How do we measure the environment of our people? How do we measure the environment that our product is being received in? We had this conversation with another business the other day. It's a pillow company. And the whole plan that they had built was that they were building a pillow company that had 0 waste in its manufacturing process. So they've gone through and figured out how to do that. Well, one of the products that they had built out of a byproduct of their main product became a fast seller. And they had no plan for how to build something without it being a byproduct. What if something that you built as a byproduct became the main product? So you have to look at efficiency, economy, environment, and you have to look at the value system and what are the repercussions of that, and how do you kind of go back to that drawing board. And we look at that again, right? Your assignment number 1, go back to those circles of behavior. What is the exchange value? What is the relative value? What is the predicted value? What is the experience value? And if you're watching this on a video, that's the one I would screenshot, because these are what they are receiving. And then you're going to read that through your business model, through that prosperity mindset, and through the values of the business, right? So when we look at that, this is something that you have to look at every year. So come back 1 year from today, do the work of today, and really look at, right? Close your eyes, put on the music, and really see what you've done in the last year. And then look at how you're going to review that the next year. And I would place the values that you want to live by in a place that you can see. Some of the ways that I kind of brought forward here are some of these. I gave you the literal translation from them, from kind of the words that you would hear in that country of Brazil, right? Grain by grain, the hen fills her belly, right? So this consistent pecking will kind of grant you your end goals. And that's really where you have to go, is kind of grain by grain, the hen will fill their belly. And that is how we kind of take it. How do you do this important work? This is another one that we have, is those who do not have a dog hunt with a cat. Those who do not have a dog hunt with a cat. What does that mean? That means that we improvise with what we have. We look at what we have, and we improvise with that. And that is just the magic of go forward with what you have. If you don't have a perfect scenario, go forward with what you have. And truth is like rain, it falls on everyone. So when we look at the truth of what you make, the truth of the relationships that you have, this will fall like rain on everyone. We had somebody in class talk about that their Instagram was stolen, and instantly the voice had changed on there. The Instagram started reaching out to other people and trying to steal those other Instagram accounts. And her phone went crazy because everyone knew it wasn't her. So the rain that she had put in on that, her truth, that all of the relationships, they knew her well. And then when it wasn't her, they instantly said, no, this isn't what we know. This isn't her. So your truth, whether you think they see it or not, they see it all. So all of your imperfections, all of your perfections, all of that truth, all of that goodness, all of the positive and negative things that you do, it is like rain. Truth is like rain. It falls on everyone. The other one, the last one that I like in this conversation is this one of that you don't have to be a genius to make the most of an opportunity. Is in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? You don't have to be a genius to make the most of an opportunity. Use the opportunity that is there. And the opportunity I want you to focus on is that red dot, right? That red dot that has thousands of bright yellow arrows pointing at it. That goals are specific. They have a named outcome. Mission has a hard defined line. And that you've got to build some planning points so that you can measure how you're magnifying in your values, that you want that. Now, we cannot make none of this changes, right? Happy thoughts do not build a bank account. You actually have to take action. You must work at it. And we are going to take this complex piece of, right, what is my business model? What is the business values? What is the business values that we build off of, that we magnify from? What are the business values that our customers receive? What is the mission statement that guides us in that? And how do we put that in that model of prosperity? This is a very complex dance. This is the samba, right? We're going to outline this extraordinary ability to magnify your mission with core values and business value. And that is this beautiful dance. So take your time, listen to the music, move around in it. That this is a samba is passionate and ferocious as it is quiet and insightful. A beautiful samba has so much to offer. And there's this other part, right, where we go, well, what is what is a belief or what is a value, right? So it is my belief that everyone can enjoy music and dance at every age. That because my belief is in the music, my belief is that it's here. You'll feel it, you'll see it, you'll touch it, right? That is a belief. But my value is that can I bring that music to you in your business, right? So go back, take the time to go back and look in the sales pipeline from last year and use that prosperity business model. Go back in and use what you've done and say to yourself, look, was this efficient? Was this in the best economy? Was this profitable? Is this the environment we like to build off of? That one of the things that building in times of economic downturn is that you must readjust the wheels. You must readjust the wheels. And you must readjust the wheels in economic upturns just as well. So, and then really looking at that circle of behaviors, those values, the exchanges for your customers receiving, right? That exchange value, relative value, predicted value, experience value. Did they have a great time while they were doing it? How is this relational to other people who do this business? For those of you who are doing service industry work, that, you know, how is this service related to somebody else who does this service? We have this wonderful electrician. And one of the things that this electrician did, he's a private electrician and he costs a little bit more. And one of the things that he put in there is that I clean up after myself. I will sweep up my station. And that he put that in as a selling point to the other contractors. Now, most electricians will leave everything there because they're taught to only do what they're there to do and leave the mess there so that someone else who gets paid a lot less than they do will clean it up. And this electrician is saying, look, I work in a clean environment. I clean this space up, so I will clean up after myself. And that instant change in his messaging went back and it got him a ton of business. So that part for him being hired in private jobs was a big deal. That I'll clean up my workspace when I'm done. Big deal. So you go back and review your pipeline, find out what went well. The goals for you going to future is, remember, book smart builds street smart. And book smart builds street smart. So I would look for 5 things that you can kind of reach out for this year. Are there 5 books that you can bring in, 5 podcasts, or 5 somethings to kind of build you to be smarter? Time management, I'm not saying go make some time management goals. I'm saying go back in and look, review the practices that you had last year. Lots of people are writing out new goals, and that's not what I'm doing in January. In January, I'm closing out the books and I'm looking at what everybody built and what did you have, and I'm reviewing the practices that were there. So when I look at time management practices, I look at efficiency, I look at economy, I look at environment, right? Did we give time to the things that built the values for ourselves, our customers? Did we use our time to hit that red dot, to hit that one red dot of this is where we magnify from and this is our mission? So go back in and look at your time management practices. Did you start on time? Did you actually do what you said you were going to do on the day you were going to do it? Are you always running 2 days or 5 days behind on a deliverable? So these are things that you can kind of look at. Many, many people who work with me, many of you are creatives. And one of the things about that, is that, you know, inspiration, creativity is really time consuming. So self-discovery and exploration is one of the things that I really remind people it's super time consuming. So you have to build time around inspiration, right? So you have to listen to that samba sometimes. You have to experience it. If you've been to somewhere where you've seen a great business be great, you want to take that time. If you are a journaler, this is your assignment. Go back and ask yourself some questions from last year. And this is really the one question that's really, it's 5, but it's one, right? What were the top 5 ways my values were showcased in my business last year? So one of my values is humor, right? How many things were funny? How many things made you laugh? Money is a really hard topic, and talking about business and money can be very personal. So, right, what were some of the things that were just made you laugh about how silly and hard this is? So one of the things I go back through is here are my top 5 values in my business, right? Authenticity, right? Do I really give you the real deal? Yeah. Is it fun to watch? Yes. So how are the top 5 ways that your values are being shown? And really look at that through that lens of that prosperity business model, and looking at it from what are you giving and what is your client receiving. So with that, so much. You can listen to it again. I know I talk really fast because I want to try to get it smushed into a smaller amount of time, because you are on the go. And you can listen to it again, you can pause, but put in those assessment tools for yourself. It is always a pleasure to be with you. I thank you so much for being with me today. And, I will again just say thank you, and I will see you again next year. Bye.